Home, the gold.
He could be too far. No, he's digging. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Move for the win. Team Canada. Darren Wu!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chaffer.
Canada just became the world champions.
Canada and the rest of the world. You're listening to the Huckin podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Theo.
And I'm Danie Proby. I'm from Vancouver, BC, and together we make your coast-to-coast guide to all things Canadian Ultimate. There was so much Canadian College Ultimate happening this past weekend. It was very exciting, but neither Theo and I were able to be there because we both have other commitments, surprisingly. But my goal is that next year, both Theo and I will be in the booth. We'll be on the field. We're going to have lots of people helping snap videos and photos and kind of pop it off. So we're ramping up, but we were not physically present there this weekend. What were you doing this weekend?
We had a very big, for all the college fans out there, senior day is a big deal. So we had a senior game for our rugby team. We got the free pizza out there. So come on, you come to the game, you get a free t-shirt. You got to come early. Free t-shirt, pizza, hot chocolate, coffee, and there's a portable bar, and you get to watch rugby. Come on. That's a good day. And it's free admission. Come on. So that's what I was doing on Saturday. Danie, you had kind of the boots on the ground on Friday, keeping track of everything. And then you pass the baton to me on Sunday. And so we were able to cover some things. Before I even ask you what you were doing, I want to give a quick shout out to the people that were on the ground. Ben Clark, Owen Benoon. I already did this on Instagram, but want to do it again on the podcast. Dan Nye as well, Ben Clark. They're all kind of helping us, either streaming or they're at least giving me score updates and saying because they were there, they could see who was winning faster than it was updated on the site. That's all I'm going to say about the website. So,
did you say Braden too?
Danie? Braden, yeah. Alti Bray out there. He was commentating as well. So yeah. All good.
We really appreciate it. It was sweet. It is nice to kind of get the news ahead of the spreadsheet being updated. And then next year we'll be there. We'll be there in person, and we won't have to rely on the internet. Anyway, my weekend was good. Thanks for asking. So Traffic had a little training camp day as our second to last practice. And then we played against a men's team called Rock Fight, and they zone us and do funny zones and weird things to kind of get us ready for big tournaments. And then our alum came and watched us at the end, and we had a little picnic. It was very cute. And I ran a little hat tournament for middle school kids. My dog got sick. She pooped everywhere, and I stepped in it by accident. It's really sad.
That's a visual that we want the audience to see.
With my
Danie
barefoot
stepping on Indy's poop. Yeah. Oh, tough. No socks even.
It was
Gotta wear the
a
sandals inside.
rough start to the day. Rough. Okay. Let's just head to the news. How do I segue out of this? Something that's not poopy is the news. So we're going to head to the news.
We now have breaking news.
Welcome to your news section. We have PAUC, otherwise known as PAUC, applications are now opened. Open. I don't know how to speak. They're now open. So if your team is interested in attending this tournament, head on to Ultimate Canada's website or WIFDev. You can kind of find them in various locations, and we can share them on Huckin as well. It's going to be a good time. You said Dominican Republic, right?
Yeah, Dominican.
Come on.
If I'm not mistaken, I heard through the grapevine from people that are wanting to go that it's actually at a resort, but I don't believe that. But it'd be kind of cool. You hang out at the resort, you play a couple games of frisbee, and then you just hang back at the resort. How sick is that? It's in November. It's winter time out here. That's sick.
I agree. I think I went to the Dominican when I was younger. I can't remember. I think it was lovely. And I think U20s are supposed to be there too. So I think they're obviously ready and wanting to be hosting these events. So get on it, get over there, enjoy the sunshine and the sand and the palm trees.
One more thing we're going to add to the news here before we, this is going to be a short news segment today, Danie, because we got double main event. Come on. CUUC Recap, USAU Preview. So Other news, sign up. I believe the sign up is still open there for UCC. So I saw the list of speakers were announced. So you could see that on the social media pages of Ultimate Canada. Take a look at who's speaking. If that piques your interest, you should either head there physically or go there virtually. So yeah, that's a PSA there. But that wraps up our short news. We're going to head to main event after this quick break. Talk CUC. Lots of some upsets. Some people got their picks right. That's all I'm going to say. So we're going to head there right now. This episode is brought to you by Be Ultimate Apparel. Based out of Vancouver, BC, Be Ultimate is climate neutral certified and designs products that are built to perform. I personally love my 2 Be Ultimate Sun hoodies, and I rock them wherever I go. If you want to learn more about Be Ultimate, start your custom team order, or check out any of their ready for purchase collection, you can head over to beultimate.ca.
This is Safina Shajani and Jessica Gao from the McMaster Women's Ultimate Team, your 2022 CUUC Division 1 Women's Champions.
And you're listening to the Huckin podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
Welcome to the main event. This is your CUUC Mega Recap. We did the Mega Preview, so it's the Mega Recap here. So we're going to start with the Friday qualifiers. For those of you who don't know, if you don't earn a bid to Div 1, you can earn a bid on the Friday qualifier. So it's a very exciting tournament. It's one day, quick and dirty. Try to sneak your way into Div 1. So the weather didn't look too bad. It wasn't as bad on Friday as it was on Saturday. So some of the games were a little bit more legit, which we love. So on the women's side, Queens ends up winning on Universe, and the game was streamed, so you can go and watch that. The game was definitely back and forth. Guelph did start on D, and so it was like a really tight game. There's 3 turnovers apiece, all on Universe. But Kate Skiborski, the dime, outside in flick for the dub. We like a player that when it's crunch time, they can show up and ball out. We love that. In other news, McGill proves to both of us and to the world that they are the real deal. In fact, they didn't surrender more than 6 points en route to a bid.
Yeah, 6 points in the game. Like in a game, not 6 points total.
Yeah.
Because I don't want people to think that. I mean, they still dominate. Like, come on. That's still good for them. You win 2 games, you're in. But now we got to go to the sad news, Danie.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're a Griffin out there, you might want to cover your ears because you did the Charlie Eisen patented lose Lucia because you lose to Queens in the first game 9-8, and then you lose to Ottawa by what score? 9-8. Tough. I predict them to go to the big dance. They lose both. Tough news there for Guelph. In other Friday stuff, we're going to talk a lot about some D2 teams, but want to give a quick, shout out, kudos to Regina making some noise. They were able to get a W. I know they posted about that on their Instagram. They were very happy about that. I know G. Lee, one of my former commentary partners there, out there coaching, traveled there with his squad, and it's just good to see teams from these smaller communities getting some dubs early. That's going to build the confidence. Love that. They did get the win over a team that also making some history in Memorial. If you take a look at Instagram, they wrote about this. First all-women's ultimate frisbee team to come from that university and play in CUC. So they're making some history. You probably saw from the pictures, not the biggest roster, but hey, this might help recruitment because they show that they can play well. So we're going to talk a little bit more about them in the Div 2, but that's what happened Friday overall for women's. And now everyone's favorite. Who got the picks right? Danie, I'll let you let us know.
I think the contest should be that it's whoever can lose by more than Danie on the picks. Because I think I was probably more accurate this time than last time, but not by much. So in the picks recap, Theo, you said Guelph, Queens, and McGill were all going to make it through on the women's side. You were correct about Queens and McGill. Kudos to you. 67 point whatever %. I had McGill, Waterloo, and Queens making it. I knew Waterloo was a bit of a Hail Mary. I thought it would be so sick. Imagine if I picked something like that and it was accurate. You know what I mean? Like, you got to take risks sometimes. And of course, I was right about McGill. True. and I was right about Queens. So we were the same. I mean, I was a little bit like farther on one of my picks. You had like, your team at least had 2 universe chances to get there. So let's talk open.
I mean, we're going to start with a team that, like, this team was so close at CUC, like so close, and that's Waterloo. Okay, so they had it, they had their chances, didn't get it, did the lose see ya, but they were able to make it. So congrats to you. And then, you know, a team we're going to talk about on the Div 2 recap as well, but Laval, I don't know what to say, but tough sledding if you're Laval right here. They do really well the first 2 games. They even win their semifinal 15-2, but then they lose to fellow Montreal rival McGill. McGill did send us a video. We haven't had a chance to post it yet, but it's actually a huge hammer for the dub. So McGill, we like the moxie of you pulling that off. So Waterloo, Laval, take it. Danie, we had the same picks for this one.
And the same amount of accurate. So we both picked Waterloo and Laval, which were, to us, chalky. And Waterloo, of course, makes it through, and Laval did not. So anything to say before we move on to Div 1, Mr. Theo Wan? No. Okay.
The one thing I'll say, Danie,
Yes.
is I would just go for the whole tournament, but Friday qualifiers, like that's, there's no other tournament like that. Like, I know someone on Facebook suggested that there could be potentially a Division 2 for CUC or something like that, but there's no other tournament, at least in Canada, where you have to qualify like that same weekend to go play. Like, so I think it's super cool, and it also like brings in some strats of how you play Saturday if you played Friday. Like, so cool. That's all I'm gonna say. It's cool.
I know Ulti World has been pushing for this to happen at USA Club Nats as well, for all those kind of fringe teams, that they go a little early and they play a little qualifier. Maybe there's 1 or 2 spots available, gets more teams down there, more people, then they would stay and hang out at the event. It kind of creates more of an atmosphere. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Moving into Div 1 pool play. So we're just going to be talking about notable results. We're not going to go through every single game and do all that analysis. So in women's, we had a 3-way tie, chaos, in Pool C. C for chaos. All teams take care of Queens. Manitoba beats McGill. Mac gets crushed by McGill 11-2. This one definitely stands out more than any of the others to me because of like what ends up happening later on. Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Manitoba loses to Mac on stream 7-4. Definitely was watching that game. It looked gross out there. Windy. Like you could see people's clothes like flopping in the wind, and somebody would like go to throw the throw and the frisbee would flip over in their hands. So it looked tough. I mean, when you see scores like 7-4, you know the weather is playing a big impact, and the players that are on the field are gassed, so tired. Those points are like 20 minutes long a piece. So Mac ends up getting 3rd seed due to point differential. So they finished 3rd in Pool C. McGill, by virtue of the big W against Mac, gets to be 1st. So Toronto plays tight games in their pool, but they end up showing that they are top dog, and they kind of took care of business as we expected, and we've come to know from that squad. Ottawa is the number 8 seed, but doubles up Laval 8-4, and then ends up beating UVic by 1. So Ottawa clutching up big as well. Theo, can you take us into the quarterfinals?
Sets up quarters where, of course, everyone makes it, but you know, you got to get different matchups. So McGill, kudos again, because you avenge not being able to beat Laval. I know I gave you a chirp earlier in the season about how you lost to Laval 15-3, but you reversed the script there, 13-9, big dub over there. McMaster, I mean, you go 2-1, but you come 3rd, and you end up playing an Ottawa team that also finished 2-1, but you're able to dispatch them. And then this is the shocker, I think. Danie, you messaged me this. Yeah, you messaged me this. You're like, Queens beat U of T? Like, is that right? And I was like, yeah, because you were looking at the stories and things. And so, yeah, Queens shocks all of Canada, defeats perennial contender here, U of T, the champions from last year and 2019, if I'm not mistaken. You can see some of it on our Instagram. I believe Braden, Ulti Bray out there filming some of it. But Queens held the lead for I think most of it, and kind of kept it going. I know they did power line at a half to get a big break or things like of that nature where they had to, put their stars on the field and they were able to clutch up. And then in Battle of West, I'm going to call West teams. Okay, sorry, Manitoba, but more West teams. Manitoba squeaks out the dub. So that sets up a couple spicy semis over there.
I mean, if you talk like Ultimate Canada purposes, Manitoba does fall into the West. So it's true. Semifinals, universe action. We love tight games. It's so exciting, so fun, so memorable. Whether you win or lose, you never forget them. So Manitoba ends up beating Queens on universe 11-10. Tight game, super exciting. And then Mac ends up beating McGill 8-7. So they beat them also in universe and CEUUC semis. And so they do it again. So this sets up our final.
Yeah, you can, we're going to keep plugging the Instagram here, but that universe point's also out there. So you love universe points, you got to go check it out because it's always fun. But in the final, McMaster, congratulations. Once again, I'll be fact-checked on this, but I believe your first ever gold medal for the women's program. Once again, fact-check me if I'm wrong here, McMaster, but believe that to be the case. Win definitely a factor. You saw a lot of zone out there. Doesn't go to cap, but McMaster takes it. I don't know if McMaster fans had doubt, but it seemed like, not cruise control, but they had it, is all I'm going to say. So McMaster does take it there, 9-4. So congratulations to you. This program's been trending for a while. We talked about their second place finish. Some of us, weren't hyped on them and they changed their tune. So McMaster, you show people what's up. And big stuff for Hamilton. Really excited for them.
It's been such a fun journey to follow along with this team. I feel like since we've been covering college, they've just been peaking and then peaking and peaking a little bit more. And to come down with this final win is just like such a testament to the work that they do in the off season and everything. I don't know. It's very cool to see because that Manitoba team, they're not a pushover team. And that final score, that's like we won kind of score. Like Mac deserved it. It wasn't, you can't say it's the wind or anything like that because they got enough points ahead of Manitoba that they would have been scoring both ways. So congratulations to Mac. Dominant performance. We love to see it. So McGill ends up coming third place. We don't really know much about this game other than they beat Queens. Actually, the note here is annihilates Queens 15-2. So maybe there was some resting of players or some injuries or they're playing for funsies or I don't really know. I mean, McGill's obviously a strong team, but Queens beat Tula. So it's college ultimate is kind of like NCAA basketball where there's like crazy like fourth quarter overtime plays happening, huge upsets. If you go to like club women's ultimate, it's like the top 8 are the top 8 and they maybe budge one or two places here or there, but there's never this many swings of upsets. So super entertaining, really screwed up picks. So Theo, your semis, you had Toronto, Laval, Manitoba, and Mac. So you only missed on Laval, so pretty good. And you got both finals.
I missed on U of T as well, actually. I hyped myself up too much there, Danie. I actually missed 2.
You got the finals right and the winner. So there you go.
I'll take it.
You can talk about how bad I am.
Well, no. Well, let's see. You had U of T, Mac, Manitoba, Laval. So you missed out on Laval and U of T just like myself. You had Manitoba. Well, okay, this gets worse for you. I'm sorry, Danie. But you had U of T, Manitoba in the finals. So tough sledding for you is all I'm going to say. Danie does finish in the top. I'm looking at the totals here. Danie does finish in the top like 50. So come on, that's good. Top 50. We love it.
I'm supposed to be an expert though, Theo. You don't got to help me like that.
But all I'm going to say is your boy over here finishes tied for 3rd overall. So I finished tied for 3rd. By picking the winners of both pretty much guarantees you like a high finish, right? Like that's just how points work. So anyways, Danie, your favorite topic, one that we've highlighted at length, Spirit.
Yes. Okay. So I think Toronto ended up just being disqualified from Spirit scores because I think that there was not enough stuff entered. They didn't do anything wrong. They just I think there was scores not entered. So I'm sure the Spirit
Bash
was
was pretty
great.
clear about that in the captain's meeting. It was if you do not enter Spirit scores, you will be disqualified.
Yeah, so that's what happened. They didn't have bad Spirit. They just didn't hand in their Spirit scores. So Victoria, UVic with the top score with McGill at 10.5, followed by Manitoba at 10.3, and then Laval at 10.2. So those are your kind of top finishers in Spirit. You look kind of confused.
Well, I'm just looking at the team that won, finishing last in Spirit is all I'm going to say.
Yeah, but it's still basically even. It's basically at 10. And there was actually a huge thing.
It's not like some of the other situations we talked about earlier.
No, and if you go on Reddit, there's actually a post recently where somebody did some statistical analysis based on finishes at WUC and Spirit scores. And there's the comment section is crazy with all these people kind of breaking down why that kind of statistical analysis doesn't make sense and XYZ. But if you're curious about that type of stuff, it's fascinating. It's going to be on our Ultimate. So go to Reddit, check it out. Ready to move on to the Open division? Okay, here we go. Biggest storyline. Queens fizzles out in pool play. They go 0-3. We were pretty hyped on this team, so these results kind of stung, or they were a little bit surprising to us, to say the least. So they lost to a team that they defeated previously in Ottawa and got crushed by Manitoba 15-5. Obviously, Manitoba, pretty good team. They crushed other teams by similar margins. So it was just, I guess we weren't really expecting it. I have to have a little conversation with Mr. Pete Galbraith. See what happened.
I mean, you contrast that with McGill. You had the 8 seed and you finish 3-0 on day one. Let's get it. So there is a score that looks disputed on the Ultimate Canada page. So I'm not going to tell you the score because it's disputed. But they did beat Manitoba 9-8 to start their day. So you got to feel good with that. And yeah, I mean, they had some opportunities at CUUC, and weren't able to seize it. So able to go 3-0 on day one. This is big for them.
Now, for UBC, had a pretty shaky start. Devin BP, one of the top players on UBC, Furious George player, TCU 20 in 2020, big impact player, ends up with a concussion within the first couple points of the first game. Pretty tough because it's not like their roster was big going into it. And I think by the end they were playing with 15 or 16 players. But yeah, they had a short bench. They ended up facing University of Montreal and they lost, which was not super unsurprising. This is kind of going into the quarters matchups, but they this is the spoiler alert. They definitely struggled in pool play, say the least. They came third overall, and so they kind of set themselves up for tough matchups. They lost to Waterloo in pool play. So it's rough. I have more to say about them, but I'm going to wait till the end to talk about it. Do you want to talk about Montreal?
Montreal. We got people chirping us in the stories we posted, it was the biggest upset, and someone wrote, how can they not picking Montreal? So Montreal in pool play took care of business, 3-0. You look at their score differential, they finished with a plus 22 in pool play with UBC, Dalhousie, Waterloo in their pool. So, yeah, we'll see how they do Sunday is all I'm going to say in the rest of it. But you mentioned Waterloo earlier. They beat the same team they did last year in UBC, so big for them. But they are not close against Montreal, and Montreal was the cream of the crop in pool play at least. And that sets up quarters. So quarters, I'm going to say it, was kind of, if you were following, not really close games. So many people excited for this Ottawa-Waterloo matchup. You had two teams that had previously battled in that game to go at Easterns, but this one not close. 15-7, Ottawa beats Waterloo. The closest game was McGill beating Dalhousie, 15-11. We haven't talked too much about Dalhousie, but the fact that teams coming from Nova Scotia, both teams coming out, we love that. Manitoba takes care of UBC and Montreal takes care of Queens. So that sets up semis, which was, as the kids say, a banger.
Yeah, so luckily we have both Universe Point games. So both games were Universe. Sick. So sick. They're on video, courtesy of Oran Binham. So on the Instagram, go there. They're there. Super exciting. Ottawa gets a big layout grab from Desmond Staples for the win, 10-9. In the other semi, we had Manitoba. They had a big dub over Montreal, 12-11. Some would say this could have been the final, and it maybe would have been a slightly more exciting final, potentially. Would you agree with that, Theo?
I mean, it's the 1 and 3 seeds. Not discounting, of course, Ottawa or McGill on the other side, but this is what I've heard from people, that often the most exciting ultimate, and we saw this in women's and open for Div 1, the most exciting games were semis, not the finals.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I don't know why that is, but sometimes the semis are more exciting than the final.
Yeah, based on the scores that were coming through in pool play, as well as through the quarters, I think if I were just looking at score lines, I would assume that Manitoba and Montreal would be the finalists, but they just happen to be in the same side. So they faced each other early, which is unfortunate, but it made for a really entertaining semifinal. So again, go check that out on our Instagram. So Manitoba, they are in the final. They cruised to beat Ottawa 15-9, but it was close at the beginning. So they were going neck and neck. It was 4-4. But then it was 8-4 all of a sudden at half. So they proved that they are the best, strongest team in Ultimate right now, and they seal their big year with juniors and seniors. So very, very exciting for the Manitoba Open division. Amazing. Like, when I was watching some of these streams, there's certain teams that look like they were playing in really windy conditions and were struggling. And there's certain teams that it seemed like all 7 players on the field were unimpacted by the wind. And both Manitoba and Montreal really impressed me the whole time. Every clip I saw, every game that I watched that they were in, their throwing in the wind and their completions on deep looks, it was just a different level than any of the other teams. So it was really, really impressive. I know they have a lot of talented club players too. So just congratulations to them. Montreal ended up beating McGill once again for 3rd place as well. So again, we could have seen a Montreal-Manitoba final, but it's all good. They ended up coming home with dirty gold anyway. So, yeah.
Yeah, don't want to take away from McGill's run, of course, but McGill, you come in 4th. But you got to be proud of fighting back, losing in that game to go, losing in finals in other games like in the Quebec Provincials and not having a close game early on in the season, able to fight back. Good stuff from them. In terms of picks, so of course we always do this. I had Manitoba, Queens, UBC, and Montreal, so not looking good for your boy over here. I did only get 2 right in Manitoba, Montreal, but I did pick the winner, and I've been hyped on them all season. I was telling people they're the number 1 ranked team in the country. Some people said, why don't you have Montreal? They won last year, but I was like, you got to trust me. I got some intel. And there it is.
There it is. I had the same 4 picks as you originally, but as I do, a little UBC snuck in there. To be fair, last year I picked them as winning, so I did drop them down a placement. So
you dropped them down a second, but
yeah, and then I had Manitoba winning the whole thing. So I do want to shout out UBC a little bit with their shortened roster and their really tough day 1. They ended up having a really tough quarter, which is what it is. They ended up playing the eventual winner in quarters, and then they go win-win. So they beat Waterloo, who they lost to on day 1, and they ended up beating Queens. I think it was like a come from behind win right at the last minute. So like a good strong finish for that program. I think it's good. It's positive. I think they're leaving on a good note and ready to kind of train to get ready for spring. And I think this is a segue for me to say, teams, register for sectionals, play in the US. If you're like Manitoba, Montreal, I know McGill has been playing in the States and stuff like that.
Girls, we love that.
Do it. You're so good. Like, I had no idea that these squads were as strong as they were until we started covering it. Like, we could have more Canadian teams vying for spots at nationals, at American nationals. It would be awesome to see. And I know that it's during exam time, but it's during exam time for the UBC students too, and the UVic students too. So they make it work. If there's a will, there's a way.
Just tell them you're going to try to be a Canadian Open team making it to college nats, and your professors will understand. That's all I'm going to say. They know how big it is. So I want to wrap up this the Open recap with just a time of mourning for Queens because they only win one game on the weekend, and this team was hyped up. So, Danie, I know you're going to talk to Pete about it at some point, but we gotta figure out what happened because this team, honestly, when I saw them play Eastern, they look so good. I was like, this team is going to do well at Nationals, potentially in the final. That's why I had them in the final. They look strong. They won these 2 tournaments in Ontario, but for some reason, the wheels really just fell off for them. And it's just a tough finish for the side from Kingston there.
Yeah, agreed. So for Spirit, congratulations to Waterloo for being the number 1 place holder in Spirit, beating 4 other teams by 0.1. So in second place, we have a 4-way tie with Ottawa, Montreal, Queens, and Dalhousie. Obviously, the Spirit looks pretty good. A lot of good scores here. So even though the weather was hectic and a lot of the games were really close, seemed like there weren't too many issues kind of happening on the field, and I haven't heard anything anyway.
Yeah, normally you would hear some grapevine stuff. I know we had talked about Manitoba Spirit earlier, so they finished 8th in Spirit, which is last, but they have 9.3, so it's not like it's not like in the 8s or something. So, but that's something that we've talked about before, and we're going to continue to see what not just them but other teams do with safe play and things like that. I didn't see too much of any egregious contact from what I saw, Danie. I don't know if you have any other comments about that before we move on.
No, it looked pretty good. I mean, with zone, sometimes there's some dangerous kind of bids on Frisbees when people are kind of going different directions, but it does seem like it's less likely to happen in zone. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't see it as often personally. So cool. Div 1 is a doozy. You know what else is a doozy? Div 2Z. So we're going to head over there. We got women's up first. How, Theo? Tell me how. Was there a game that ended 4-2? How tiring would that be? So that was Waterloo and McGill B. How?
Well, I just hope it's an error in the score sheet and not real life. But
those points must be like 30 minutes long or something. Like obviously not, but like close.
6 points total in a game. That means like if you're one of the top players, you might have played all 6 points. Like because the coach just assumed like you need to be out there. And so, yeah, I don't know why that's one of our main storylines. I put that there. But that just shocked me, Danie, when I was looking through. I was like, how does the game end 4-2? That's how we're going to start it off.
Yeah. Tough going.
A team that did not have tough going was Guelph. They go on what Danie likes to say is the revenge tour. Come on. You did the lose-lose, see ya, but you win Div 2. You win every game placed in front of you. So you are the 9th best team in the country. Got to be proud of that. Another team that's got to be proud is TMU, a team that was definitely not on either of our radars at the beginning of the season. We saw them do well at Steel Town. We're like, okay, Eastern's okay. But they finished 10th in the country for a team that doesn't have the same legacy as like a Queens or even a Guelph, which has been a longer program than TMU, formerly Ryerson. Like, this is great for their women's program. Big shout out to all the coaches out there. I know Victoria Ta is one of them. Can't name the others on top of my head, so forgive me there, TMU, but you're going to get some love from us. Keep building the program and building Women's Ultimate in Toronto. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so Waterloo was definitely somebody it's a team I kind of had as my caliente pick. So they kind of had a little bit of a fall down. We had them initially in our top 10 based on people that they had on their roster, but I think that they were missing some notable players. I'm not sure if everyone was playing. Some of their players, if not one of their players, plays for Sixers, and there's USAU stuff going on and U24 tryouts. So you never know what's kind of going on for these teams, but it definitely impacted kind of how they played. And they ended up finishing 6th place in Div 2, which was a surprise. Carleton definitely rebuilding, ends up finishing 9th, another team that has traditionally been strong. And they hope to build on that to have a stronger finish next year. But they win Spirit, which we love. So McGill B team, is the best B squad of all the B squads. They end up finishing 11th. And there's 3 B squads at this tournament. Theo, you must be in heaven. You love B teams.
As someone who's played on a Club B team, I know what's up. So, yes, B teams love it. We did talk about Memorial earlier, and they finished 10th overall, so top 10 for them in Div 2, and they're saying it's a huge record for their province. I'm saying the same thing. Love that they were out there, and not just out there participating, but making moves and winning games.
Yeah, that's sick. We love to see that.
So now, Open Div 2. This team's going to feel like I'm piling on them, but it's really just a fall from grace for this team from Laval. We had them, I believe they were number 4 in our power rankings heading into this tournament. They don't qualify, and then they lose to Western in quarters, a team that I did not have in the rankings, and don't think they were too pleased about that, and they kind of proved it on the field. Let's go. They did finish 5th, but that means they finished 13th overall, and with the talent that they have, I talked about the roster before, that's tough for them, is all I'm going to say. Carleton, Ottawa finishes 2nd. Carleton wins Div 2, the 9th best team in the country. 2nd year in a row. Come on. It's just showing the hype of Ottawa, and you got to watch out for their club scene as well as their semi-pro scene out there this coming summer.
Another team, Toronto, comes up just a little bit short, so they've dominated in the past. They're quite a storied program. Remember the times, Breton Tan, Paul Taluya of U of T. They finished 10th overall, 2nd in Div 2. We also hyped up Guelph quite a bit. And
I did that too much. That was me.
You hyped them up? I mean, we are a team, Theo, here. So your hype is my hype. So Theo was hyped up. Oh, Guelph. I think you know quite a few of those players, and it is hard. Like I got that UBC bias, man. I know what it's all about. I have no judgment. So you saw them, you played with them, or some of them from Boat. You saw what they can do in the club season. Makes sense to me, but they were definitely a little bit disappointed compared to what we thought that they could do. So they lose a grudge match to BB Flatball, and then they drop the 5th place semi to Laval. So 30 teams, Theo, in Division 2. How do you feel about that? How do you feel about there being 8 B squads? 8.
I keep telling people, you got to love the B squads because that's what's going to build your program. Queens is the great example of this. If you go and ask anyone on Queens how many people that played on a Superfly are now on Mothership, their A squad, like they'll tell you, like put in the work in the off season, play club if you can, and then you'll be playing on the A squad for your school. So I think it's really cool that there are B squads. McGill, you're the best B team, McGill B, and you win Spirit, so double good stuff for you. Finishing right below them is UNB. Want to give some love to some teams that came from far away. So Memorial was out there. UNB from New Brunswick. You got Lakehead coming from Thunder Bay, Regina, and then even Algonquin fielding a team with both open matching players and female matching players as an open squad. So one Belanger, not 2, because I misspoke at a previous episode. I ran into the other Belanger on Saturday night and was wondering why they weren't at the tournament. And then she informed me she, in fact, does not go to Algonquin. So I was fact-checked on the spot.
We love being fact-checked. Speaking of fact checks, Theo, tell me about your picks. I know you had Ottawa over Waterloo and you had McGill over Guelph. How did that go for you?
I mean, McGill qualified, so that messed up. Guelph, you weren't even... Yeah, the picks were for Div 2 for me were completely awful. So I don't even want to spend too much time on it, Danny. It did not go well for me over here. What about you?
I had Guelph over Ottawa on the women's side and McGill over Sherbrooke on the open side. So tough going.
You got a winner, though.
Yeah.
You got the winner, though. So that's good.
Okay. Div 2, Div 1, amazing. We loved it. We loved it so much that Theo and I wanted to continue the party. We wanted to continue the celebration of all the excitement of everything that's been going on. Before we get to our exciting announcement, Theo, do you want to talk about the picks contest?
Yeah, first of all, I believe this is, we had more people participate at this contest, Danny, get this, than CUC. Like, I didn't expect that. We had way like less than double. Like what we had more than double this year. So love that. It came down to the finish. Luke Priestman, Spencer Baldwin, I believe they both play in the uni scene, neck and neck. They're only separated by 1 point. Wow. So they all correctly guessed the 4 pool play winners, and they picked scores. They both predicted a U of T Victoria game, 1 point difference. They both got that right. Like it was neck and neck. So Luke Priestman, it's already been announced on Instagram, but you won. Congratulations. You get a 1-year subscription to Ultiworld. That's going to come in handy with the upcoming USAU championships where you can get the field pass, which we're going to talk about later. So we did talk about all the picks sort of in our subscriber only last week, but that was early on. So officially now I can say Manitoba was the highest picked open team. So it was close with Montreal, but they got picked. But Toronto, you didn't even make it out of the quarters, but they were the highest picked by a large margin. 18 more people picked U of T than McMaster. So there you go. But Danie, come on, give people the announcement now. This is like, you're hyped on this. I'll let you hype it up.
Drum roll, please. Drum, 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 drum. We are announcing for the first time ever the Huckin College Awards. Beep, 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 beep. We have 5 categories for our awards. We're going to be sending out the award nomination form to all the teams that participated in the event. Each team is going to nominate 1 person from their team in each category. Once we've collected all the nominations, then we're going to be doing some voting. And we'll tell you a little bit about that on the next episode. So, what are the categories, Theo?
You got my favorite rookie of the year. Who's the first year player that starred for your team that did well? Maybe provide some depth. Maybe was a surprise. Whoever, you're going to nominate them for rookie of the year. Then you got defensive player of the year. Another one's offensive player of the year. MVP overall of your team. So you got a lot of people to shout out. And then Danie, I'm going to let you introduce this one because this is your creation here. Come on.
So the 5th and final award is the Huckin Heart Award. So think that person that's on your team. It's like the heart and soul. They might not be your MVP. It could be your MVP. Like you can potentially nominate somebody in 2 categories, but it's that person that really fires your team up, that never gives up, even if you're down by a lot. They're kind of like the heart and soul of the team. So that's kind of the vibe for that award. Yeah. So when you fill out the form, you're going to have to do a little description, a little baby blurb about why you think these people deserve this award. It kind of helps us kind of sift through things. And then when and if these people end up winning the award, eventually we can do a little write-up about you all and pump you up and maybe throw some prizes your way. Maybe.
Oh no, we're not going to overpromise the prizes here, but yeah, we'll figure it out. I mean, the fact that you're named, a winner of something is pretty cool. Like that's a prize in itself. But we'll figure out the prizes. For right now, Danie, any other thoughts before we take a quick break and move into a tournament you'll be at USAU?
Just want to say one last congratulations to all of the athletes that played at CUUCs in the series, the whole thing. It was super exciting to follow along. Thank you to Ultimate Canada for filming the games so that I could participate from my living room and watch on the big screen. So, and also thanks to all the people that helped us at Huckin kind of keep track of everything and everyone who voted and everything. It was just super awesome. I wasn't even there. Felt like I was there.
Yeah, we want more of that, and hopefully we can bring that over to CUC as well. But yeah, we're going to take a quick break and talk about USAU after that.
This is Nick McFadden from the University of Manitoba Open Team, your 2022 CUUC Division I Open Champions, and you're listening to the Huckin podcast, your coast-to-coast guide for all things Canadian Ultimate.
Welcome to Main Event Part 2, USAU Preview. So we're kind of going to go through all the Canadian teams, their pools, and a little bit about how they did in the regular season, and if any games of theirs are going to be streamed. Hint, hint, they will be. So we're starting in the women's division. I'm going to start talking about Sixers. So they're the number 7 seed overall, which finds themselves into Pool B. So they got Flipside out of San Diego, so SoCal. So they're the number 2 seed overall. Then they have Grit below Sixers and Nightlock below them. So they've got all the players back that they didn't have at Worlds. They're kind of like full roster. They're ready to go. I know that people in Ulti World were kind of talking about this, but they think that this flip side Sixers game is one of the games where there could be a major upset in pool play. So I expect that game to be fiery. It's going to be awesome. And if they would either play Brute Squad or Riot in pre-quarters. So if they don't,
lost, right?
If they don't beat Flipside, that will be kind of their matchup. So, and then if they do win that, then they'd be matching up with Fury in quarters. So they were undefeated at ESC, arguably not a ton of competition. At TCT, they had a tough loss to Phoenix in pool play. When they were up, Phoenix does have a habit of doing this. So they did this to Traffic last year at Nats, and it's definitely like a sore spot for us. So Lindsay Sue, again, if you're listening to this, you're the worst. Okay, so they could not beat...
Lindsay Sue kind of has to listen to this, I think.
I know.
I think.
It's motivating for us, so thank you for that off-season motivation. They could not beat Molly Brown in semis, and they lost to Brute in regional final 13-12. But they did beat them at Worlds. Brute Squad was looking a little bit shaky kind of near the end of the season, but they have some pickups and they're looking strong again. So I think Sixers could do well. I know we don't talk about floor and ceiling, but I think that their ceiling is quite high.
Yeah. I mean, this team, believe LT World's own Keith Rayner picked them to go semis. Is that right on Deep Look? I think so. So I could be corrected there, but I believe he thinks very highly of Sixers. Anywho, we're going to move on to a team that I've never heard of before. Traffic. They're the 8th seed. Pool A. You know, it's a tough draw when you get the number 1 seed overall. So, you know, can't make any bones about that. Traffic's got to play Fury. Fury have been looking strong. I know, you know, they didn't win at Worlds, but Rebel's not going to be there, so that might help them. But Nemesis and Parcha also in this pool. You know, I don't believe in jinxes, so I'm going to be confident and say that, Danie, I know you might not want to hear this, but I think you're going to come second. Okay, I know Fury is going to be a tough matchup. I'm interested to see what the team does in terms of personnel. Like, what if the game is tight? What if the game starts to get away? Like, what kind of personnel will be deployed based on, you know, potential pre-quarters matchups. So there could be a possible matchup with Schwa or Skin. I've kind of worked out the math in pre-quarters. And you have a couple rematches from last year. Is that right? Nemesis and Parcha out there?
Yeah, so our pool last year was Parcha, Nemesis, Phoenix. And this year it's Parcha, Nemesis, Fury. So it's very similar vibes to last year. We've already played Parcha this year and we've already played Nemesis this year as well. So it's going to be a good time.
Yeah, I mean, if they do win the pre-quarters, which I, once again, will expect, it will set up a spicy quarters matchup with Molly Brown, depending on if Molly carries their end of the bargain. Summer Solstice only lost was to the aforementioned SoCal Flipside. Finished 5th at Pro Champs, and from my calculations, you beat Schwa 3 times this season already. Is that right? Something like that?
Yeah.
You beat them a couple times.
Twice at regionals, once at Pro Champs, once at the round robin, so at least 4 times.
Okay, so if you do match up with them in pre-quarters, depending on how things go, you know, it could be a good matchup, but sometimes when a team has been beaten a lot, they just get that fire and might come out differently. So we'll see what happens.
Speaking of fire, we're going to talk about Red Flag right now, bringing those spicy red jerseys. They are the 15th seed, spiciest, honestly. Like, I think we're going to talk about...
15th seed.
Yeah, at the 15th seed. We're going to talk about a contest or picks thing that you need to do, and you need to be picking Red Flag, just saying. So they're in Pool C. They've got Amp, Toro, and Shame in their pool. Both Theo and I are very confident that Red Flag can make quite a bit of noise in this pool and come into the top 2, because Toro's been a little shaky, and that is their first game as well. So if Red Flag goes out like they normally do with lots of energy and fire, they're going to do just fine. So if they come in second, they're most likely going to be playing Space Force or Love Tractor. If they come in third, they'll likely match up against Polar Bears. So we don't really see BFG losing there. So their potential quarters matchup would be Drag or Hybrid. They played Hybrid already, right?
Calculation. Sorry?
They've played hybrid already. Did they play them at WUC? Or were they not there? I forget.
Well, both teams were there. Hybrid, I've commentated their game. I actually don't know if they played at WUC.
I think that they might have. Anyways, so it should be interesting. I think a lot of teams don't really know what to make of Red Flag because they haven't really, well, they didn't play in any regular season events. They just played WUC and then the postseason. So not a lot of information and intel for the teams about them. I think everyone knows that they like their deep game. They had a big dub against Moondog. So I think they're kind of riding the high. They're going to be ready to go, ramped and ready to go.
Now, the final Canadian team by my calculations is a team, was close to me based on where I was living, a little farther away now. But Toronto Goat, you're the 13th seed, puts you in a tough spot in Pool A. Honestly, a tough pool. Johnny Bravo, and then the number 1 overall seed Truck Stop. Tough. But you get a rematch with Omen. And for those who know, that loss to Omen is basically what gave Northeast one less bid. So Dig is probably just rolling around pissed off because Goat's the one that stole the bid from Dig. So anywho, I'm going to predict I see them coming in third. I think that they're going to be extra fired up and motivated to play Omen. If that were to be the case, they would set up a Sockeye or Pony pre-quarter.
Rough.
And then if they do get to quarters, it could be Ringer Machine. There's a lot of math involved here. But it's going to be a tough sledding for this Goat squad. Believe in you as a Toronto, trying not to be too homery here, but believe in you. At Pro Elite, you had a shortened squad. You lost to Bravo and Tennessee. I don't even know how to say this name. I've even commentated one of their games before. Tennessee, or a post-produced game, but Tennessee squad. And then at ESC, they lost to Omen. As I mentioned, they were able to beat Dig in the game to go at regionals after losing to them in the first place semis the day before. So some people, even Deep Look, were saying you got to watch out for Goat. I don't know if they're a true 13 seed. So similar to Red Flag, it's based on how you do in the regular season. You might get seeded lower, which kind of sucks for, honestly, teams above you. It happened at Worlds, too, where they were seeded like 4th in their pool. And I felt bad for Ronalay out of Ireland because they ended up with a team that shouldn't be there.
There's a lot of action, and you can catch some of it. Unprecedented level of coverage this year. They say that every year, but every year it's unprecedented. So there's going to be these games being streamed of our good old Canadian teams. So day 1, October 20th at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Traffic versus Parcha, Toro versus Red Flag. Catch on Field Pass. We'll explain what Field Pass is later. At 1:30 Pacific time, Goat versus Omen and Fury versus Traffic. Spicy. At 3:45 Pacific, we have Sixers versus Flipside. Caliente. Theo looks very confused right now.
Well, I'm not confused. I just don't know why this Sixers Flipside game isn't the main attraction. Like, that is one of the biggest games of pool play, in my opinion.
Like, why it's Field Pass?
Yeah, but I see now that it's hybrid and mixtape in that same time slot. So that might be why. That time slot. Okay, folks, listen to these matchups. Molly Brown Brute Squad, Pony Sockeye, Machine Chain Lightning, Flipside Sixers, all being streamed at the same dang time as hybrid mixtape. Danie, I'm just fired up right now.
That's going to be a lot of Ultimate. So can you explain to everybody what Field Pass is that wasn't able to see it or weren't able to see it at Pro Champs?
Field Pass, this is the most innovative thing that Ultimate's ever done. It's kind of like NFL Red Zone for the fans out there. So you'll get one free game to watch on YouTube. For a subscriber, you can go and watch 4 games at the same time, kind of like 4 small monitors. Or, from what I've been told, you can actually just click on one and watch that. There won't be commentary. There'll just be ambient sound. But if you just want to focus on the Traffic Fury game, you can do that. But if you want to, there's time in between points. So it's kind of cool to see what's happening elsewhere. And then for them, from what I've heard from their podcasts, if a game's a blowout, they might, kind of zoom a little away from that one. And if a game's hanging the universe, it kind of might focus on that one, which kind of makes sense. And if you of course, you're the hometown fan of whatever team and they're getting blown out or blowing somebody out, you can still watch that one individually. So honestly, this is great coverage for both, for myself who can't be there. And then Danie, you can always watch this back later. kind of fun. And then on Friday, you'll have 5 pre-quarterfinals matchups. They're going to have 10 quarterfinals of 12 being streamed. Like, that's crazy. And then, of course, ESPN going to do the semis and finals.
Not as good as Ulti World.
My plea is, can we just get Ulti World to do the finals and semis, please? Because we saw what happened at World Games. There are a lot of comments in the Ulti World Discord. People are like, why does the production look different on Reddit too? They're like, why does the production look different? And it was like, because Ulti World's not producing it. And yeah, it didn't look great. So there's also another contest, Danie. I know you hinted at it earlier. It's called The Game. It's a thing that gets promoted a lot, and I think it's like super fun. So basically, I'm not going to give you all the details, folks, but you can head to ultiworld.com and find out. But you got to pick a team from each division. You have to pick 5 teams total. You got to pick at least 1 from each division and then 2 others. And you can't have more than 2 teams from a division. But basically, add all the seeds that you pick together. Has to be 36 or higher. So that is why, Danie, you alluded to Red Flag being a smart pick.
Yeah. They're a sleeper pick. Like, for that team to have done as well as they did at USAU and to be coming out of the division such as the Northwest, where you have like the two of the best teams in mixed, like, ever, to be 13 seed, they're going to be upsetting. Why are you 6?
15 seed.
Oh, 15 seed. 1-5. I was like, what are you? I'm so happy we don't do video anymore. I thought it was 13 seed. 15 seed. Even better. Even better. Go pick Red Flag. Saw some.
Yeah, you want to pick a couple high seeds, and then I personally probably wouldn't pick a 1 seed because that really makes you have to pick higher seeds. Anyways, there's all the psychology to the game. It's super fun. Entries are due by Wednesday, October 19th at midnight Pacific. So by the time this comes out, I think you'll still have some time to check it out. But if you win, you get an Ulti World Greatest bag, a free 1-month subscription to Ulti World, and a Breakmark prize. And the second place person gets a free month of Ulti World and a Breakmark prize. And third place gets a Breakmark prize. So yeah, prizes are available. We only gave out 1 prize. They're giving out 3. So come on.
They got a little bit bigger of a budget than we do, even though we're the same company. Technically. So there you have it, folks. That's it. Our CUUC mega recap and our USAU preview. Again, I know the American Ulti players think it's funny when we call them USAUs, but we're going to USAUs.
You're saying Club Nats, right?
Oh, yeah, like Nationals or, yeah, I don't know. But because we have CUCs, we have the USAUs, which is just like, I think it's cute. I think it's cute too. Anyways, I'll be there. I'll give you all the updates, Theo. I'll try to take some stories and take pictures of people with me and Charlie and Aiden and stuff, and we'll all hang out and have a good time.
You made me jealous again like last year, because last year you met all of them and you were taking all these great pics and I was super jelly. I'll be working. Of course, we got our big hockey home opener and senior games coming up. So it definitely was not feasible for me to head out to San Diego.
Yeah. Well, I'll be there and I will make sure to make you feel extra jelly, as you so put it. So you're still with us. Thank you for being with us. It's been an hour. Big episode. So again, congratulations to everyone who played and good luck to everyone who's playing. And thank you to everyone who's listening.
Yeah, make sure you, once we send out that form, make sure you submit it as a team. Follow us up on the Instagram. We're really just flying right now. I'm going to toot our own horns here, folks, because our followers are just like shooting through the roof. So be part of the craze that is following us on Instagram, Huckin. We're going to do a short subscriber only for those passionate subscribers. We're talking about maybe some changes to the university game. Danie had a little spicy Instagram story talking about zone. So we're going to talk about that as subscriber only. You can head there, be a Fuller Plus subscriber, really support what's going on here with Ulti World. So that's where Danie and I are going to end up. If not, we'll see you next week.
Bye.